Hi guys, welcome back. So in this demo, I'm going to show you guys how to move around the Linux file system. And in this demo, we're also going to learn some of the basic Linux commands. Just like I said in my first video, this playlist is going to be purely hands-on and is going to be focused on DevOps related concept. So this is the Linux operating system. As you can see, we have the file system. We have if you click here, you're going to see all the apps installed. And if you come here, double click here, you're going to see the file system. We have on the home directory. As you can see, we have the home directory here. We have desktop, document, downloads, music, file, blah, 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 just as you will have your normal operating system. So we have all of that. But for a DevOps engineer, you're not going to be using the graphical interface. Now, what you can see currently now is the graphical interface, which is known as the GUI, which is the graphical user interface. We're not going to be using this. What we are going to be using is the command line interface, which is the CLI. Now, you need to launch the CLI. Now, how do you launch the CLI? There are two ways you can actually do it. You can close here. You can simply right click and click on Open Terminal, or you can simply come here and search for terminal, which is here. You click on it. Now this is the terminal. This is the command line interface. This is what you're going to be using as a DevOps engineer. Okay, good. So now we are into our terminal, and I want to explain some few things to you guys. First of all, what does this mean? Now, let me explain. Now, first of all, there are two words here, which is ubuntu@barillon.com. Now, the first one here, Ubuntu, is the user. Now, in a Linux machine, we can have multiple users that are using that Linux machine. So, the current user that is logged in is Ubuntu, which is the user that is logged in. So the current user is Ubuntu. And also the other part, which is the Barillon, is the host name of the server. Now the server has a name, and the name of that server, which is the host name, is known as Barillon. So this is the user name. This is the user that is currently logging, and this is the host name. Now you can also run if you run this command, who am I, here is going to tell you who you are. So currently, who am I is returning Ubuntu, which is the current user. Now, in order for you to get more information about your Linux operating system, obviously, as a DevOps engineer, you should be able to tell which operating system that is currently running on your OS. You can also run the uname command. If you run the uname command, it's going to tell you that this is a Linux operating system. Now, if you want to get more information, you can run cat. You can run, cat, /etc/os release. Now, this is going to tell you a lot of things about your operating system. So currently, this is an Ubuntu 24.04 operating system, which happens to be the latest stable release. And this is the name. And also this is the version ID and all of them. Like, you don't need to know all of that, but I'm just trying to show you guys how to get more information about your Linux operating system or your Linux machine. So that's that. So you can clear. Now, the first command that you're going to learn is the ls command. Now, which is ls? Now, the ls command is the command that is used to list content of a folder. Now, when you run ls command, it's going to list all the content inside a folder. Now, if you run the ls command now, you're going to see we have desktop, we have document, we have downloads, we have music, we have pictures and all of that. And also, if you come to the graphical interface, you will also see the same thing. So we have this, that, document and all of that. So the difference between the graphical interface is that you can click on it like this, just like you are clicking a button. You can click on it. You can click on it to see whatever is inside. But on the graphic, on the CLI, you need to master the commands. Now, that is why I tell you the ls command is a very important one. Now, if you want to see the ls command in action, let me show you. So if you come here again to the file, and if you double click on this picture, then this is empty. Let's go back. Let's look for another one. Let's go back to our home directory. So if you come here, click on desktop, it's empty as well. Let's go back. I'm just looking for a folder that has content. Let's click on downloads. Oh, that is empty as well. Let's click on videos. So basically, I think all the folders are empty, and the ls command is, as you may have noticed, is when you double click on this is empty. So this is like the ls command in action. You are trying to check whether there's a content inside a folder. Now, conversely, if you come here and you run the ls command, if you run ls followed by the folder name like this, you see that it is empty, meaning there's nothing inside the folder. So remember, the ls command is used to check if there's a content inside a folder. A folder is just like, a container that contains different stuff. You get? So that's a folder. So now, having learned that, now let's also learn another important command. The next command we're going to learn is cd, which is cd. Now, cd is known as change directory. It is the command that helps you to move around the Linux file system. Now, if I do cd followed by downloads like this, if I click enter, you can see that this shell has changed. We now have /download here, which means that we are currently inside the downloads folder. So if I run ls like this, we're going to observe that there's nothing inside the download folder. There's nothing inside at all. So it is empty. Now, how do I know if I am inside the downloads folder? Is because if you check here, in addition to the host name, we now have /downloads. Now, this therefore tells us that we are inside a folder. And for us to get inside a folder, we use the cd command. So remember, the cd command is known as change directory. It's used to enter into a directory, while the ls is used to list content inside the directory. Now, inside the downloads folder, now we're going to create another folder. Now, in order for you to create another folder, you're going to make use of the command, which is make mkdir, which is now make directory. I'm going to call it Babylon. Hit enter. Now, if you run ls, which is to check the content inside a folder, if you run ls, you're going to see that the Babylon has been created successfully. So now we can see Babylon. Now, mkdir is used to create a folder, not a file. Now, how do we now create a file? Maybe we want to create like a configuration file. For you to create a file, you can run the touch command, touch, and let's call that file shell.txt. You can add an extension to it like touch.txt and hit enter. Then if you run ls again, you're going to see that the folder and the file has been created successfully inside this folder. Now, don't get confused. Remember, we are not in the normal directory, which is your home directory. Now, in order for you to know where you are currently in on the file system, you can run pwd. Now, if you run pwd, you will see that you are inside /home/ubuntu/downloads. This is where you are currently. Now, if you go back to the graphical interface like this, if you come here and you go to home, remember, let's walk through it gradually. Now, you can see that we are inside /home, which is this home. Now, we also have another path /ubuntu, so we can look for Ubuntu here, /home/ubuntu, which is this your home, and we are inside /download. Now, the downloads folder is here. So if you click on these downloads, you're going to see, the Babylon and the shell.txt file that we have created from the command line. Now, this, you can now see whatever that you can do on the graphical interface, you can also do it on the command line. But the command line is more powerful than the graphical interface. There are a whole lot of things that you can do inside the command line interface that you cannot do inside the graphical interface. So that's that. So let's crack on. So now we've created a file and we know where we currently are on the file system. Now, what is the Linux file system? Now, the Linux file system is formed of like a tree, and it begins from a root directory. Now, if you come here again, if you come to the home, you will see that this is a directory. This is the home directory of this user. Now, if you click on it, you're going to see that it has /home/Ubuntu. Now, the slash is the root file system of the Linux operating system. You can think of it like the source of other files. So in a Linux operating system, when we're talking about the file system, it is where all the file system are being traced to. So it starts from the slash, which is the root directory. So we now have /home/Ubuntu, which is our home directory. If you are still confused and you don't understand what the Linux file system means, you don't have to bother yourself. On our next video, I'm going to explain that, what the file system actually means and how we can find our way. So in this video, just follow me along. Now, we've learned the ls command, the mkdir command, ls command, pwd command, and all of that. Now, we now have a folder inside here. So if you run the ls again, we're going to see that and all of that inside. Let's say that we want to enter into the Babylon folder, and inside there, we also want to create another file. Now, if you want to enter there, you can simply click on it like this, and do cd, enter, followed by like this. cd Babylon, and there we are in. So if you run ls, it's empty. Now let's create another folder inside. So we'll call the folder, let's call it hotel. Now, sorry, mkdir. Yeah, so we now have hotel. Then if you run ls like this, you see that we have the hotel folder here. We have understood how to create a file, to create folder, how to find our way where we are currently on the file system. Good. So if you run the pwd again, now we can see that we have gone deeper into the file system. Now we are inside /home/Ubuntu/download/Babylon. Now, how do we go one directory back? For instance, if we want to go back to /home/Ubuntu/download, for us to do that, you can run cd followed by ... like this, and you can see we've gone back. So we are no longer inside the Babylon. We've gone back to the downloads folder. And if you run the ls again, you're going to see all the file that we've created before. Now, if we also want to go back again, if we want to exit from this download and go back to our home directory, which is /home/Ubuntu, you can also run cd like this and hit enter. Now, if you run pwd, now you see that we are inside our home directory. Now, your home directory always starts from /home/your username. So since your username is Ubuntu, /home/Ubuntu is your user's home directory. Now, your home directory simply means that you own everything inside that directory. You can create a file, you can create a folder, you can do whatever you want to do. That is inside your home directory. For instance, if you have more than 2 users, using that server or using that Linux operating system, or each and every one of those users have their own home directory. So let's say we have 3 users. One is Israel, one is James, one is John. Now, for Israel's home directory, you're going to have /home/Israel. For James directory, you're going to have /home/James, just like that. So each and every one of them have their home directory, and that is where they can store their files, whatever they need to store. So in this case, this is my home directory. Now, let's do ls again, and let's go back to where we came from, which is the downloads. If we go into the downloads, I will run ls like this, you will see that we have barrelon shell.txt. Now, let's now learn how to copy files from one place to another. Now, let's copy this shell.txt into this barrelon folder. Remember, this is a folder. As you can see, it has a blue color, which tells you that it is not a normal file. It is a folder. It is a folder, not a test. Another way for you to inspect what format is a particular file or folder, you can simply run ls hyphen L like this. Now it's going to tell you a lot of things about the content inside this file. So as usual, we'll have the barrelon folder, and we also have the shell.txt. But if you come to the beginning, if you inspect this very well, you will see that it begins with a D. So whenever you see a D that starts here, it means that this whatever you are seeing here is a directory. Now, a directory is a folder where you keep stuff, just like a file. Inside a file, you keep different stuff inside. That's what is known as a folder. Now, you now have that inside there. If it starts with like an hyphen like this, it means it is a file. So that's how you know. Now, what does this now mean? Ubuntu. It means that this folder belongs to the Ubuntu user. Now, you are the owner of this file because you are the Ubuntu user that is currently logged in, and that user belongs to a group known as Ubuntu group. So you don't need to know that. I will explain that later on. Now, let's get back to what we are doing. Now, let's now look for a way to copy this shell.txt file. We want to copy this shell.txt file into this barrelon. Now, how do we do that? Now, you can use the cp command, which is another command, to copy that. So you run cp, followed by the content or whatever you want to copy, and followed by the destination. So I want to copy it to barrelon. So followed by barrelon. So like this. Now if you do ls like this and you go into this directory, which is using cd, if you go into that directory and you run ls, so you're going to see that we now have the shell.txt here. Now remember, before we didn't have that, we didn't have the shell.txt inside this barrelon, but now we've copied it and we now have it here. Now, in order for us to demonstrate that again, now let's now move this shell.txt, let's move it into this hotel. Remember, we don't want to copy it, we want to move it completely from here into this hotel. Now, how do we do that? For you to move a file, remember, moving a file or directory is a permanent, you are moving it, it goes permanently, unlike copy, because if you copy, the original file or original content will still be in that place. But since we are copying, you're not going to see this at all. So so in order for you to move a file directly, use the mv command, followed by the what you want to move, and followed by the destination. So we are moving it into the hotel directory like this. So let's move it there. So I'm moving it into the hotel and hit enter. Then if you run ls again, you will see that file is no longer there. So the file is gone. So we now have only the hotel. Now if you go into the hotel using cd and you inspect using ls, you see that the file has been successfully been moved into the hotel. So this is how you can move along the file system. Now, just a recap. Let's review what we've learned so far. Let's go back to our directory. Now, remember, when you logged in, let's clear our screen. To clear your screen, you simply run c, clear, type clear. It's going to clear your screen. Now, just a recap. This is the username. This is the user that's currently logged in, and this is the server. This is the name of the server, which is Barrelon. Now, the first command we learned was ls. So ls is used to list directory. Now, ls, simply list shows you the content of a directory. Now, you can think of it like when you go into a house, ls, tells you the different content inside the house. Like it tells you there's a share, there's a window, there's a, whatever. So it's like it tries to show you the content of a directory. Now, after that, we now learn the cd command. The cd command is used to move into a directory. Now, if you look at all these, all of them are directory because they are not a file, because they contain one or two files or folder. Now, remember, directory and folder are the same. It's just basic. It's just the name. So, directory is what encompasses or what contains, another folder or files. So, in order for you to go into a folder, you can simply run the cd command followed by the name of the folder, which is download, and that will move you into that particular directory or folder. Now, if you run the ls command again, it's going to show you the content of that folder or whatever that is inside. Now, that is that. And also, we also learned I also taught you how to go back. For instance, we are inside the /downloads folder. Now, if we want to go back to, like we want to go one way back from where we are coming from, you can simply run the cd followed by ... like this, and it's going to take you back. But in this case, let's go back again. Let's go back again and hit ls. And in order for us to copy a file, simply run the cp command, followed by whatever we want to copy, like this, and followed by what we are copying to the destination, which is Barrelon. So if you hit enter like this and run ls, you can see that we've successfully copied it to Barrelon. Now, in order for you to move it permanently, let's run ls again. In order for you to move it permanently, you can simply run mv, followed by what you want to move, by tst and Barrelon. Now, so that is how you move file around. And also, if you want to know where you currently are on the file system, you want to know where you are, because obviously we've went into another directory. Now, let's go into another directory again. Let's do ls and go cd Barrelon. Now, if we come here again, I will run ls. We see that we have another folder, another file. Now, if you run pwd, now you now find out that you are inside /home/ubuntu/jalo/Barrelon. Now, if you come to your file system, that you're gonna, if you click here like this, click here Barrelon, you're gonna see that. So whatever you are doing on the shell is, you can see it on your file system. So that's that. Now, that's all for this video. In our next video, we're going to explore all that stuff in details. And until then, thank you guys for following up with the demo. Please do well to practice some of this command, and I will see you in the next video. Before we leave, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the follow button, subscribe, and share with those who need it. Until then, I will see you in the next video. Have a nice day and enjoy the rest of your day.